Our factory in Stevensville, Maryland is full of craftsmen, and essentially the guitars are handmade. We use machines to cut out the rough parts. As you'll see, most of the work is done meticulously by hand. This is Jim Cullen. Enjoy the tour.
Okay, this is where we start the tour. This is called rough cut. We get all the wood from the mills into this room and cut it down to production sizes. What we need to do is dry the wood out because we want to get all the movement out of the wood before we make a guitar out of it. Important that you prep it properly. So we have two hot rooms, one for the necks, one for the bodies. It is 105 degrees in these rooms. The wood comes in, it's at about a 20% moisture content level. Whenever it reaches 6% or below, it goes out onto the production floor and make guitars out of it. Here we're at rough body construction, so the wood comes out of the hot room. The first thing these guys are gonna do is join both pieces of maple down so it's nice and square. Once it's square, what they're gonna do is they're gonna pull out a jig, runs a radio frequency glue down the center line, jig this up, clamps both pieces of wood together. At that point, it's one maple board, so they can pop the maple board out of the jig. Then they have a PRS body template. They're going to trace the body, lining up the center lines, maneuvering any knots or any undesirable spots out of the top. Trace it, do a rough perimeter cut, as you can see, set the maple aside, pull the mahogany, send it through the planer, takes it down the final spec. They pour glue on the top and the back, as you can see. It's going to spread it out real fast, flip the top into the pencil line, nail gun it to the back. It goes into some presses here. The presses put 4 tons of pressure per square inch on the guitar body for 12 hours. The guitars come from rough body construction over to this area. This is the CNC area. The computer goes through a bunch of XYZ coordinates, carves out the guitar. The first carve basically is the back carve on a solid body, so it's going to carve out the back, belly carve, electronics cavity. In this instance, this guitar has the tremolo option, so tremolo cavity. It goes on to have the top carved, which is what the CNC machine is doing now. It does the violin carve, pickup cavities, bridge location, neck joint. Every guitar that comes out of the CNC machines are within 1/1000th of an inch, so you can pretty much say they're exactly the same. And that's what we're looking for, is real consistent, high-quality electric guitars. Okay, the guitars come from the CNC machine over to this area back here. These are the body sanders. It takes them about an hour and a half or so to do each guitar. What they're going to do is check the guitar over very thoroughly for any kind of quality issue. If the guitar has a wavy binding or if something doesn't meet spec, we cut the guitar up. Our necks are also carved on CNC machines to ensure very accurate, nice, precise products. The idea is we want to get all the movement out of the neck before we make it into a guitar. Okay, the next stage basically is we do another profile cut, rough headstock cut, tuning peg holes are drilled, does a fly cut which takes the mahogany strip down. Now see the truss rod has been inserted into the neck. What we'll then do is coat this with epoxy. It locks the fretboard into place, ensuring all the inlays are centered down the neck. The next area it goes to is the inlay bench. What they're going to do is pop the inlays into the channel, whether it be the moons, the dots, or the birds. She puts the inlays in, glues up around them. The inlay will set into place. Once the inlay's set, we'll clean up the fretboard a little bit on the floor sander, then take it to a fret slotting jig. Once all the fret slots are cut, it goes to these guys over here, which are going to do the radiusing of the fretboard. They have a block that's cut at what our fretboard radius is, and they just go ahead and sand it out. Once it meets spec with the radius, it goes down to be fretted. What happens here is basically now your fretboard has the radius The guys are going to take the frets, they're going to pop them into the channel with the fret press. Once they get all their frets into place, they jig this up with some constant even pressure. At that point, when the frets are in place, we glue the frets down. We like our frets to sit nice and flat across the fretboard. So basically, we get it down as close as possible to the fretboard on the floor sander. Then it's hand filed the rest of the way down. Everyone who worked on the neck signs off on it, and it heads to its appropriate destination. All in all, it takes 16 days to run a batch of necks, and we run about probably 65 in a batch. Okay, behind me is NBA, that stands for neck body assembly. So what these guys will do is they fit the neck into the body. They check the whole area to make sure it's nice and flush all the way around. Also, what they'll do is they set the neck angle. After the neck pocket has been cleaned up and the guitar sits for 12 hours, basically, they're going to come back and finish sand the entire guitar. They do this with the 320 grit sandpaper. Basically, every PRS is sanded up to 320 to ensure you will not find sanding scratches on the guitar and the wood itself. Okay, after the guitars come from Scott Shirley, our scheduling manager, which means they've passed all the quality specs for the wood shop. They come up here to the stain table. Okay, basically the stainers are going to look at the mod cat to make sure the guitar has all the proper options. Also, they're going to read the color off of here. At that point, the guitars go into the spray room where we get a sealer coat. About 45 minutes later or so, they come out. What they'll do is clean out clean off the excess, clean out the cavities the following day, check the guitar over real thoroughly, make sure it meets spec. If it does not meet spec and we cannot repair it, we'll cut the guitar up. Otherwise, we'll make the necessary repairs, and then it'll go off into the base coat spray room. The guitars come from the stain table into the base coat spray room, where the guys will spray a polyester base coat. It's done in 4 passes. It will tack up between each pass to do a final build coat of about 12 mils. Once the final tack off is complete, they'll walk the guitars in here, and this is a hot room. It's about 95 degrees. And the guitars are going to cure out in this hot room. Okay, the guitars come from the hot room. These ladies and gentlemen grab the guitars, and what they're going to do is 220 sand the guitars. First, they're going to use a rotary sander to break the surface. Then they're going to do all the handwork, basically. They're going to block out all the flat areas. We have certain techniques to get the entire guitar nice and flat. It's sanded down to about 2 to 3 mils. Takes them about 45 minutes to an hour to 220 sand a guitar. When they're finished with the guitar, they're going to check it over. They sign their name in there and then put it in the prep rack for the top coat preppers. Okay, we're now at the prep table. What they're going to do is look the guitar over extremely thoroughly, make any necessary touch-ups, any necessary repairs that the guitar might need. They will wipe the guitar down real thoroughly with the wax and grease remover, tape off all the non-painted areas. Once it's taped off, they hang them on the rack, and then it goes off into the next spray room. Okay, the guitars will come from the top coat preppers into the top coat spray room here. And what the guys are going to do is they are going to spray the color coat. In this case, it's a vintage yellow, so the top would have been taped off. See the nice tape line there. And they spray the color coat.